College basketball teams are always working to improve themselves. On the court, in practice, and in the film room.
How many defenses did we talk about that they run? Huh? Okay, so what's the key to the game then? That we recognize it, but I'm telling you, we've got to get into transition, okay? So what I want us to see is that mindset in practice today. Okay, that's what I want to see, where we're not going to be sloppy. We're not going to have to stop practice because guys don't understand that. So when we get into whatever it is that we're getting into here quick, those have to be the keys. And that's what you got to be thinking about. I want to get our work done today, and what I talked about yesterday, where we got to get better. What's the word I threw around yesterday? Sloppy. We can't practice sloppy. We've got to come out today. We've got to be sharp, and you guys have got to get better. Everybody's got to get better today. And we got to keep building on it so we carry it into the game. Everybody got it? All right, let's go.
At practice, the team tries to implement their coach's lessons. It's not always easy.
You got to move. Don't let your teammate die right there. I don't care what we're doing. Do not be sloppy. Great job right there. Great job. Levante, I think it was you that ran down there. That's a great job. The biggest thing you got working for you right now is what? Okay, it's not down here, man. You got to get it up here. So now, again, by the time you go from here and up, he can get a shot off. If you're up here, you just got to jump a little bit. You've got to have your hands above your shoulder. Push it. Everybody in transition. Now look, go back. AD, look, I want you guys to understand. You know this better than anybody. Make a great drive here, and you come in here, and what do you think? What? It's the hardest pass. Play off 2 feet. Throw it up there. Let him go get it. But that's a hard pass, man. He can't see all this stuff in here. Give it to him. Give it to him.
Let's go, John.
Good. Hard cuts. Get him open. All right, let's go. Get it in.
And we welcome in the pride of Hickory, North Carolina, Coach Rick Barnes. Coach Rick Barnes is in his 3rd year at Tennessee, and they play the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday, where a win gets them at least a share of the Southeastern Conference Championship. Coach Barnes, it's good to talk to you again.
You too, Tony. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. Your basketball team the other night, to go on the road the way they did at Mississippi State and have that kind of performance, that I know you had a long film session after the Ole Miss game. It looked like your team was ready to play against at the Hump the other night.
Tony, I thought we were much better offensively. We didn't give up as many points with our offense. Defensively, we struggled early. They did a really good job with their ball screen offense, and they were getting downhill on us, and we were trying different kinds of coverages, trying to just get it under control, and we finally settled into where that was able to happen. But the biggest thing was we got our guards involved rebounding, and then on the offensive end, we didn't give up those those turnovers or those bad shots that led to easy baskets.
Well, it's been an interesting season for you. Everybody knows the story that you were picked 13 in the preseason. I know what that's worth. But I'm thinking back to games like at Alabama. I know that was a very disappointing outing that you had against them. And you just said, I don't understand how we can play this. Tell me about how your team has gotten better, has sort of evolved since that Alabama game.
Well, I think what happened at Alabama can happen to any team in the country. I think it has happened, and it just goes to show you that if you're not ready to play, if you think you've arrived, you can get smacked and get put back pretty quickly in place. And so what we've talked about is consistency and trying to get better. And you know, we have been in some uncharted territory with these guys. We're still a relatively young team at the start of the year. We're not anymore. You know, we're like anybody. These guys are closer to being a year older really in their class. But all we've talked about is how can we get better? The standard that we've set, how do we try to work to it every day? And that's what we continue to talk about. And we still can get better now, and we have to. I think this time of year, that's got to be your goal. How can you improve? And you want to improve as individuals, which will improve your team. But right now is not a time to try to do something you haven't done. It's whatever you've done and you've hung your hat on, this is when you got to be really good at it.
Let's talk about some personnel. I mean, Admiral Schofield stepped up for you the other night, 24 points. He has been very strong for you in this last stretch of games.
He has, and he's a hard worker. He's got great passion for the game, and he's a guy that's going to get in there early, and he's going to work. He's a competitor, and he'll stay late. And he's a junior, almost a senior, and this is where you should be playing at the level he should be playing with. He, like most guys, Tony, I think he's at his best when he's not focused on offense. I think when he's really locked in on what his assignment is on the defensive end, and he's improved a lot with his perimeter defense. He's never really played out there till this year. And when he's rebounding the ball, he's definitely at his best, and that's when he's most locked in.
And Grant Williams, I was very impressed with the consistency that he has shown from you. Talk a little bit about him.
Well, he's learned a lot. He's had to face a lot of double teams, multiple games, and he'll probably see it again Saturday here against Georgia, where he has got to make the adjustment. He still has to fight for his space on the floor as opposed to just letting himself get pushed to areas where they can get to him easily. But Grant's worked, and I would say the same thing about Grant that I just said about Admiral. When he's thinking offense first, he's not as effective. When he's locked in just being a complete player and letting the offense come to him and moving the ball, that's when he plays his best.
Coach, when you got to Tennessee 3 years ago, you and I talked at the time. You knew there was a whole lot of work to do. Has it happened quicker than you thought it would to get back to the NCAA tournament in your third year?
Well, Tony, I think every year as a coach, your goal is to be in the NCAA tournament. It was our first year, and you go back, we had even surprised people our first year here. We were playing really good basketball, and late into the season, and Kevin Punter got hurt, and we weren't able to overcome that because we just didn't have the depth or players to do it, and we weren't a very good defensive team, and we were more offensive that way. And then a year ago, almost the same identical situation. Then Robert Hubbs really, because of knee problems, couldn't give us much the last 6 games of the year. And we were too young and immature to pick up those pieces at that point in time. And we were a talk of being on the bubble, being one of the last teams in, and first 4 out, all that this time, and we just couldn't close the season. But for the first time this year, we had depth, and we knew that we had to improve a lot on the defensive end. We haven't been a very good defensive team for 2 years, but we put a lot of work into that side of the ball, and now we know that that's what we've got to do night in and night out. But when we were playing just solid offense, we don't have to be great, but when we're solid, not turning the ball over, not taking bad shots, it gives us a chance. It doesn't put so much pressure on our defense, but our goal every year is to get to that postseason tournament and be a part of those guys that are playing for that big trophy.
Coach, a lot of people are talking about you as Coach of the Year in the SEC and maybe the National Coach of the Year. I know that has got to be gratifying after all those years at Texas and coming back and coming into the SEC. I know that's going to be really gratifying for you.
Well, what's gratifying is that God's blessed me with a great group of guys that we really enjoy being around, and it's been fun watching them grow. And Tony, there's a lot of good things going on with our team, on and off the court, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to have that we've had to work with these guys, and we can get better. We still got work to do, and I just hope they see that, and we continue to do that, and everything else takes care of itself.
You said something really interesting in one of your press conferences the other day. I mean, you took 3 teams at Providence to the NCAA. You took 3 teams at Clemson to the NCAA. Took 16 teams at Texas to the NCAA tournament. You said, don't ever take going to the NCAA tournament for granted. What did you mean by that?
Well, the teams that we took to the tournament while we were at Providence were they were picked to be 8th or 9th. And that's why you asked about a timetable. I've never believed in a timetable. I believe your timetable is right here, right now. And so, so we did that at Providence, at Clemson. I think at the time when you and I first met, we were picked to be the worst team in the history of the NCAA. And, a year later, we were able to get a group of guys that worked hard and bought into each other, and we got to 3 straight NCAA tournaments. And I think everyone thinks it's just an easy, given thing to get to the NCAA tournament, and it's not. Not today, anyway. There's so many teams out there, and this year, there's not an elite team in the country. There's not. There's so many teams that are capable of doing some good things on any given night. And so I don't think you ever take for granted that just because you're at Texas, you're wherever, Kentucky, you're at Duke, North Carolina, it's not a given. And those teams they haven't always gone every year. They've had some lapses where they haven't gone. It's just they're there the most. They're consistent with it. But even at Texas when we went, I think 16 times, every year I said, we will never take this for granted because I know how hard it is to go through a regular season and get there. And for this team to do it this year is, again, the players deserve all the credit.
All right, let me touch on this and then I'll let you go. But I'm anxious. What do you think it's going to be like Saturday in Knoxville when the Georgia Bulldogs come to town? You know Thompson Bowling's probably going to be rocking. Georgia is coming off a gut-wrenching loss to Texas A&M. You know, Mark Fox is struggling. Mark Fox, who's a good basketball coach, is struggling. What are you expecting on Saturday in Knoxville?
Well, Tony, you know what? We've averaged 19,000 fans plus on the weekends here, and I think it'll be a great crowd here again. And our fans have been great, and we've got great fans. And you know, we have a chance to get probably close into the top 5 in terms of attendance this year. And when you talk of Mark Fox, you know, there's not a better person. You know, his team. And you're right, it was a gut-wrenching loss for them last night. But I've got so much respect for him, and we haven't been able to beat Georgia since I've been here. And one, because they're an extremely well-coached team. They don't beat themselves. And Mark Fox has done an incredible job. And I know this: every coach in the league and every coach that's ever coached against him has great respect for him and know what he has done. And so again, with that said, we know our team knows they beat us good. When we were down there a couple weeks ago, I think it was less than 2 weeks ago, close game 5 minutes ago, and they beat us. And our players know that, and so we know it's going to be a really hard game, regardless of anything else that's going on, being the last regular season game, whatever. The fact is, it's about Tennessee and Georgia playing, and we know we have to play well, and we know they're going to come in here, again, doing what Georgia does, and that's, again, they don't beat themselves.
All right, Coach Rick Barnes got a chance to win an SEC championship on Saturday. Coach, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
All right.
Okay.
All right.